Well, hi, everybody. It's time once again for the Pigskin Prognosticator of Prodigious Proportions on Thanksgiving week. It's a big week, and we're going to have a great guest later this week, Dari Noka of the SEC Network, as we break things down heading to the last week of the regular season, then championship week, and then the college football playoffs. And I'm here to tell you, Alabama, yes, they lose to Oklahoma, but they're not out of the equation yet. First things first, let's go to some games. My picks happen every Monday on Tide 100.9. That's when we unveil the early picks with Wimp and Barry Sanderson. And the last 3 weeks, guys, 3-0 each and every Monday. So that's 9-0 over the last 3 weeks. Just saying. The Pigskin Prognosticator of Prodigious Proportions. Breaking it down, the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State at Ole Miss. Ole Miss favored by 26 points. You know, the old cliche, throw out the record books when these two teams meet. Yes, throw out the record books, throw out the records. Don't use that cliche in this instant. Mississippi State is really a bad football team. The worst team they've had in recent memory. They're 0-7 in the Southeastern Conference. Soon they're going to be 0-8. Their freshman quarterback seemingly is getting better. It's just hard to say because they're always behind. Again, the Bulldogs rank 122nd out of 134 college football teams in scoring defense. Ole Miss is 7-4 against the spread. And despite the loss in Gainesville last week, Jackson Dart threw those inexplicable interceptions at the end. I do believe that Ole Miss will turn the tables at home and absolutely run up the score against their arch rivals from Stark Vegas. I think Ole Miss covers this spread with relative ease. I've heard some people say they'll be disinterested after being knocked out of playoff contention. I disagree. I think Ole Miss, this is their chance to shine, run up a score, wind up 9-3 in the season, go to a great bowl game, and potentially wind up 10-3 on the year. Meantime, Georgia Tech in Athens against Georgia. This is an interesting game. Georgia Tech is getting 19.5 points. And you have to admit, Brent Key, the head coach of the Yellow Jackets, has done a really good job. They seemingly upset teams each and every year. Ask Miami, who's lost to them the last 2 years. Now, Haynes King, their talented quarterback, still has the banged-up shoulder, but is playing a little bit. He gets relief when Zach Pryon comes in. He's more of the passer, Pyron. But nevertheless, Georgia Tech is a running football team. And if there's an Achilles heel of this Georgia defense, not as good as they have been in the past. Ole Miss ran it on them when they upset Georgia a few weeks ago. And even UMass, in losing big to Georgia last Saturday, they ran up some numbers against Georgia. I think Georgia Tech is going to run it. I think they're going to shorten the game. They're going to control the clock. Upset alert for the Bulldogs. I do think Georgia will win. They'll go into the SEC championship a week later with a chance to win the title and improve their standing in the college football playoff. But I think Georgia Tech's going to keep it close. I love Georgia Tech getting 19.5. Meantime, South Carolina at Clemson. And have you been watching South Carolina? They've won 5 games in a row. They're 8-3. The last time they won 9 games, Steve Spurrier was their head coach 12 years ago. They've been in a dry spell, but no longer. In fact, in Columbia, they're talking about, hey, if we beat Clemson and we do it in impressive fashion, we just might earn ourselves a spot in that college football playoff Final 12. And I don't think that's far-fetched. South Carolina is running the ball. Lenore Sellers, their quarterback. Ever since the Alabama game, we made a few mistakes there at the end. Ever since that Alabama game, this young man has just gotten better and better, and the team has responded. They are playing at a very high level. In fact, get this, over the last 4 games, all wins for South Carolina, they are averaging more than 7 yards a play offensively. I mean, think about that. Pass or run. South Carolina is tearing it up. Their offensive line is overwhelming people, and I think they're going to win outright at Clemson on Saturday. Clemson will have 3 losses after this one. But even still, take South Carolina. You're getting 3 in that big game there in Death Valley. All right, Kansas at Baylor. How about this game in the crazy Big 12? Baylor, by the way, has won 5 games in a row, and they've covered in all 5 of those games. They're at home, a chance to finish the season 8-4. Kansas has completely turned their season around, lost all those close games early. They're now 5-6 after beating ranked Iowa State, ranked BYU, ranked Colorado. And they manhandled Colorado. They controlled that game from the outset and never let up, winning 37-21. It's never been done before. A team with a losing record, and Kansas has never done it, beating 3 ranked opponents in consecutive weeks. Even though Baylor has won 5 in a row, and they're playing good, I think Kansas is the hottest team in the Big 12 right now. And even though they're going on the road, I think Kansas wins this game. They're getting 1.5, and I think Kansas goes 6-6 and becomes bowl eligible, which would be an amazing turnaround for the Jayhawks, but I think it's going to happen. Meantime, speaking of turnarounds, how about the job Billy Napier and these kids down at Florida have done over the last month of the season? You know, they were double-digit underdogs in 3 of their last 4 games, including last Saturday. DJ Lagway, the incredible quarterback, he made some outlandish throws against Ole Miss. The Gators go to Tallahassee with a chance to finish 7-5 on the year. They're 15-point favorites. And I know that's a big number, and historically the Gators have not fared well in Tallahassee, but this is not Bobby Bowden's FSU Seminoles either. This FSU team is 2-9. They're 2-4 at home. Their only wins against Cal early in the year, and then they beat Charleston Southern last week. This is a bad Florida State football team. If you look at every department, offense, defense, special teams, etc., they're a poor tackling team. They're poor on third down defense. They're atrocious on third down offense. The Gators are playing at a high level, and I know after beating LSU and Ole Miss in consecutive weeks and now traveling on the road, there may be some form of a letdown mentally. But I think Billy Napier, he has the locker room. And I think Florida goes into Tallahassee and stomps a really bad Florida State team. I know that's a lot, but again, it's a Gator team on the rise, a Florida State team that has been down virtually all season. FSU has nothing to play for. And while you hear that, oh gosh, it's the rivalry game, this would make their season. No, it wouldn't. They've had a miserable season. I think the Gators not only win, but they win big to cover that 15-point spread. Meantime, the game I'll be at, Auburn at Alabama, Iron Bowl Saturday. It's going to be cold in Tuscaloosa, and oh my, the Boo Birds are out. The complaints they're in overdrive after the abysmal performance by Alabama at Oklahoma. And I tell everybody, Brett Venables, while the jury is out as far as him being a head coach, as far as his prowess as a defensive coordinator and designing defenses, he arguably is the best in the country. Ask Tua and Alabama when they lost in the national championship to Brett Venables and Clemson. Venables drew up that defense that totally confused Tua and that Alabama offense. And, oh, by the way, they saw things they weren't prepared for. The same thing happened last Saturday in Norman. Venables drew up a defense that had Jalen Milroe utterly confused, and when they bottled him up, would not allow him to get out of the pocket, and they made him throw the football, and he panicked there in the third quarter, game over. So credit Brett Venables. Auburn doesn't have the talent on that side of the football to do what Oklahoma did. Even though Oklahoma's had a tough season, like Auburn, Oklahoma's got a lot of good players. They've recruited very well for a long time, and they got a lot of players that would start at Alabama, would start at Georgia, would start at Texas. Again, 24-3 was a surprise. Oklahoma winning was not a surprise to me. I thought they were going to keep it close. Didn't see the 24-3 win. I think Auburn, after that stunning triple overtime performance against Texas A&M, and they stormed the field at Jordan-Hare. It was really a good moment for Hugh Freeze and the Tigers. I think they suffer a letdown coming on the road against an Alabama team that will rebound. An Alabama team, I'm here to tell you, they're not out of the college football playoff yet. I do believe we're going to have a 3-loss team in the college football playoff. We're not going to have an undefeated team in the college football playoff. I think Oregon loses to Ohio State in the rematch in the Big Ten championship. I think we're going to have 4 Big Ten teams. I've been saying it from the beginning of the season. 4 Southeastern Conference teams, 1 Big 12 team, 1 ACC team. Notre Dame, barring a stumble against USC on Saturday, I think Notre Dame makes it and Boise State makes it. Those will be your 12. And Dabo said it last week. He was somewhat frustrated calling the college football playoffs or the rankings the Big Ten SEC Invitational, and he's right on. Listen, the folks from ABC, ESPN who will be carrying all these games, the biggest ratings, it's always been this way, but if you look at the ratings this season, the biggest ratings by far are the Big Ten matchups and the Southeastern Conference matchups, and they want those in the playoffs. And Alabama just brings eyeballs to the TV sets, even with 3 losses. And there's going to be all sorts of grumbling when Alabama makes the playoffs, but I think it's going to happen. First things first, they have to beat Auburn, and I do believe that they will cover. So once again, take Ole Miss, blowing out Mississippi State. Take Georgia Tech and the 19.5 against Georgia. I like South Carolina getting 3 at Clemson. I think they're going to win that outright. Kansas-Baylor is basically a pick-em game. 2 red-hot teams in the Big 12. I like Kansas getting 1.5. Basically a pick-up game. I think Kansas keeps the hammer down and continues this inexplicable finish to the season, and they'll become bowl eligible. Florida steamrolls a hapless Florida State team and continues their climb into what should be a pretty good bowl game with 7 wins. And I think Alabama rebounds after that disappointing loss at Oklahoma, where they played very, very poorly. In fact, I don't ever remember an Alabama team, even under Coach DuBose, even under Mike Shula. I just can't remember an Alabama team looking that bad on the road. So I think that was an anomaly. I think Milroe and company will rebound, and I think they will cover that 11.5, by the way, against Auburn. So that's the Pigskin Prognosticator of Prodigious Proportions. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And remember, as we always say, if you listen to us, you just might wake up Sunday morning independently wealthy. Wouldn't that be just awesome?